Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 79, where I played e4 and my opponent played the Sicilian defense. And the kind of Sicilian he played here, well, let's put on the opening book. I'm going to leave the engine on for this video to help me through. It's a short game, so we'll look at some opening variations and then spot the final blunder. Play spot the blunder. Okay, knight f3, and he plays here g6. So I wasn't aware this was the fourth most popular move in this position after d6, e6, and knight c6. d6 is the sort of the classical Sicilian. Knight c6 often leads to the Sveshnikov, and e6 leads to the Khan or the Paulson Sicilians. So, but g6 here, I think technically, I don't think this is really an accelerated dragon. The accelerated dragon, I think, usually there's a couple other moves first, like the knight there, or maybe even knight c6 and then g6. But the main idea is playing g6 before d6. So this is kind of an accelerated dragon. I've heard it called the hyper-accelerated dragon. I think I referred to it that way in the video. So I just play d4, which turns out to be the most common move here. I could throw in c4 immediately, just clamping down on the center. But I'm going to get c4 in later. So, d4 exchange, knight takes, and then knight c6. So now I throw in c4. So if we look at that whole sequence, c takes d4 was equally popular as bishop g7. So we were both playing all of the most common moves there, top moves in the book. So up until this point when he plays d6, I mean, usually I think the idea with the this accelerated dragon formation is you delay the move d6, hoping to get in d5 at one go. Although with c4 and e4 already played, it looks like you're not going to get that. And but the traditional line continues knight f6 or bishop g7, both logical moves. So after d6 here, I wanted to look at some options. Well, knight c3 and then knight f6, and we're back into a main line. So it's here that I wander outside the opening with this move bishop e3. Now, if you look at bishop e3 with the engine, you'll see that he can play knight g4 immediately. That's always the danger you have to worry about with this square here. The knight to g4 hits that square. So always a concern. If we go back, let's look at what logical play might be here. Bishop e2. And well, let's look at that as a new variation. There, I'm turning on the sound. Knight takes d4. Whoop. I read that wrong. Knight takes d4. Queen takes d4. And then bishop g7. Not yet threatening the queen because the bishop was not protected. Now bishop e3. And if knight g4 here, queen takes g7, right? So the knight is pinned. So castles. And just queen dropping back to d2. How about knight g4 here? Just trading. And castling. Okay, so let's take stock of this position. Looks like white still has a little more space, control over the d5 square. But black has got the bishop pair, and he's got a sound pawn structure. I mean, I would think either side is okay here. Let's back up a little bit. Instead of knight to g4, queen to d2. Yeah, I played that. Bishop to e6, attacking the c-pawn, which is defended, but looks like rook c1, most common move here. Queen a5. Okay, and now f3. I guess the idea is you don't want this guy to become pinned here. Is there a tactic? Knight takes, queen takes, and the bishop on this diagonal. Yeah, I don't see a tactic there yet, but f3 anyway. Keeps the knight out of g4 and rook f c8, putting pressure on this pawn, and b3. So you get this classical kind of setup, and I assume, yeah, white is going to castle in a few moves. Black can play a6 and knight a4. Well, knight a4 is not a move I would think of, but knight a4 and exchanging queens, you know, that's kind of a dry game. Here you have a very small edge as white here, so I would probably castle and try to keep the queens on. Although, is there a defect with castling? If you castle here, you can play b5 immediately. Yeah, so undermining this c-pawn. So yeah, I think black's formation is pretty resilient here. This Maraxi bind is supposedly the best way to play against the accelerated dragon, but it doesn't seem to confer a large advantage. So might be other tries. Anyway, let's go back and look at the game. I played bishop e3 right away, and he could have followed up with knight g4. So this move is just an inaccuracy, but he didn't. He took the knight, and now I'm okay, and we're actually into a reasonable line here. f3 was unnecessary there. The e-pawn was not under attack, and I could have just played bishop e2 and castled, or even f4. The computer says f4 is an idea. Might be a little more interesting way to play. Okay, so f3, castles, rook c1, and now queen. Oh, he attacks the pawn first, and then queen a5. And see, it's pretty much an even game here. And castles, attacks, b3. Okay, maybe a slight edge for white at this point. a6 and knight d5. Now, knight d5 I thought was the blunder, but it's a mistake. Yeah, bishop takes d5. Just because it's not the best move in the position. So it likes f4 here. Okay, I guess that's an idea. Instead of going for this knight d5, push ahead with a pawn storm. Also king h1, which is useful if you're going to play a move like f4, get the king off that diagonal. Rook f2. Okay. Similar ideas, and then also a4 is suggested by the chess engine there. But f4 it likes the best. Okay. I played knight d5, which is not a particularly good move, and he takes it. But now here's spot the blunder. So what move did I make that loses the game? And you have to cover up the right side of the screen if you want to play this game. But if you want to think about it, find the losing move for white. And why is it losing? Find why it's losing. Okay, I'm going to tell the answer. The losing move is c takes d5. And the reason it loses is because he can take the rook. So the moral here, I guess, is, you know, of course, before making a move, you're always supposed to look at any checks, captures, or threats. But you should be especially vigilant when you're opening up a line. So here, this capture opens up a line. If I had captured the other way, then he can still take here with check, bishop takes d4 check, or play bishop to d7. Let's say, no, the computer's favoring bishop d4 check, queen d4 check, and now bishop d7. Oh, probably transposed to the same position. Maybe there's a tiny edge for white here, but nothing to write home about. I guess I'll try and get pressure against the backwards e-pawn here. That's my strategy. But he can undermine my pawn chain with a move like b5. So don't know if there's anything really great going on here. But the way I took, when you take with the c-pawn, then you've opened up this file, and now he has this rook takes c1, hitting the queen. So I really have no choice. If you see here, the engine evaluation, it's all losing, but it's brilliant because it's an only move. And the other point is that bishop takes here goes with check. So I don't have time to capture his bishop. I was still thinking I might be okay in this position. because I noticed, oops, he's going to take, I take, he takes, well, maybe I can take his bishop, and he gets a pawn, but we're even in major pieces and minor pieces, but no, he's just a whole piece up. And so he's got an extra bishop in a great position, so there's nothing much to play for here, and I resigned. So I hope you guys take that lesson to heart and don't make blunders like that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.